What's doing, everybody? Today is Tuesday, September 30th. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth sends a powerful message to military leaders. Schumer is set to shut the government down tonight. Trump comes up with a Gaza plan, and I break down the Charlie Kirk murder conspiracy theories. I'm AlecLace. This is the AlecLace Show.
The American family is under attack. Parents are the underdog of this nation. Your children are being indoctrinated. That's right. Your children. They do not belong to the state. They do not belong to the school system. They belong to you, the parents, as a blessing from God our Father. So let's preserve, protect, and fight for the American family together. You're listening to the AlecLace Show. The future is family.
All right, welcome everybody to the AlecLace Show. I'm happy and honored to be back with you guys off the layoff. I wasn't here last week. I was down in Washington, D.C. I was guest hosting on OAN, One American News Network, for Chanel Rion on Fine Point. I know many of you guys had tuned in. I got many of your messages. Thank you so much for the support. It was awesome to be down there. I had I had 15 guests over the course of the 3 days. A lot of the guests that you've seen recur here on the AlecLace Show. Grateful that so many were able to make the time to jump in for a 10-minute hit or a 8-minute hit, whatever it may be. So it was pretty good stuff. I'm going to share some of the clips throughout the show here with you guys in case you missed it. But let's start here with the breaking news for today. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth really came out strong against military leaders, specifically the generals and the admirals, telling them we need to be fit, not fat anymore, calling them out and saying that even everybody, including the 4 stars, they need to be able to meet the physical fitness standards twice a year. They got to pass the physical fitness standards for whatever branch that they're in, and it needs to happen. Saying that, seeing fat generals in the halls of the Pentagon is a bad look. And Pete Hegseth is someone that gets down and does the PT with the troops, so he's somebody that is fit. And I don't see why this is even an issue. I don't know how it got so far out of control where we do see that. When you do see military people wearing the brass, and they're all out of shape. I mean, you had just the guy, Lloyd Austin. That guy wasn't in shape. He was the Secretary of Defense before Pete Hegseth. So I think many Americans agree with this. I mean, I would even go as far as to say, like, this should be the standard for police departments, whether ICE agents, FBI, fire department. We've all seen that. We're walking around looking at some of the police officers saying, like, how fat they are. Like, who's this guy running down? Or who's this girl going to run down? We all see it, and that should not be a part of the job. But somewhere along the line, it became more offensive to tell people to get into shape, and it kind of outweighed the danger of having them in the position that they're in. So Pete Hegseth calling them out today, President Donald Trump addressing all the leaders in a very long speech today that he gave, breaking down just about everything that's going on, but also saying the same thing, that this is going to be about lethality and the war fighters being ready to serve. And when I was at the Navy SEAL swim last month in August, these are all veterans, a lot of them, in their 40s, 50s, and they show up fit to do the swim, and they expect the same of you. So it's not just military that does the swim, it's patriots like myself that does the swim, but also you have police officers, firemen, regular civilians, and a lot of SEALs that show up. And I remember I was talking to Ray Cash Care, a Navy SEAL, about this, and asking a lot of them about the recruitment in the military and how it has been up. And he was saying, even for the swim, they want people to show up fit and in shape. I mean, they're representing here, so you got to show up. I didn't even actually do the swim this year because I felt like I wasn't up to the physical standards. I didn't hit the gym like the last 2 years I did the swim across the Hudson River with those guys. I made sure to get myself to the gym, get myself in shape, be able to do it. This year, I had all the excuses that you could imagine. I inserted excuses wherever I could find them, and I didn't make it to the gym. I wasn't fit enough to do it, and I didn't do it. I went there to interview them for it, to hang out, show support for it, and help boost it. They raised almost $1 million or so for the Navy SEAL Foundation. But regardless, they don't even want guys, and these are veterans. They don't even want you showing up to the event if you're fat. So let me give you a clip of Pete Hegseth talking today about his directive to the admirals and the generals. And then right after that, I'll slide in my piece there talking to Ray Kerr at the Navy SEAL Swim.
With physical fitness and appearance. If the Secretary of War can do regular, hard PT, so can every member of our joint force. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are. So whether you're an airborne ranger or a chairborne ranger, a brand new private or a 4-star general, you need to meet the height and weight standards and pass your PT test. And as the chairman said, yes, there is no PT test. But today, at my direction, every member of the joint force at every rank is required to take a PT test twice a year, as well as meet height and weight requirements twice a year, every year of service. Also today, at my direction, every warrior across our joint force is required to do PT every duty day. Should be common sense. I mean, most units do that.
Well, I think when you put the right people in the house, right, people that are focused on fitness and making America great again, it's going to cascade. There's going to be a ripple effect. And what I like seeing is, we've got young, old, male, female. We've got every race, ethnicity here. And the one commonality we have is, number one, we're all fit. And number two, we all love America. So I think that's the new trend, right? Let's get out of this whole lazy being fat trend, and let's get back into, kicking ass.
Well, see, that's part of the reason. I did the swim 2 years in a row, but I didn't get myself in shape. And I knew if I took this shirt off, you'd say, hey, Alec, getting a little fat over there. So I said, I don't want Ray coming down on me.
Hey, you know what? We hold people accountable. You got to show up. You got to represent. We're not just representing the SEAL community. We're representing America. So you got to show up the best version of you.
Well said. Ray, go get it today. Thanks for stopping by. And it is, let's get back to kicking ass. And that is the attitude, I think, in the country right now. I think especially amongst the younger generation, let's get back into doing things that we don't have to be politically correct about. We have to be careful of what we're saying. It's like, no, we're here to win. That's what we should be here to do, especially when it comes to places like the military, police officers, law enforcement, fire department. People want to be in a position to win. And that is what they should do. They should be the best versions of themselves, like Ray Kerr said there. And that's what we expect. We should expect and demand that of the people that are sworn to protect us. And so it's a no-brainer. But you'll have people, crying about it, saying it's insensitive and all this stuff. It's like, listen, here's the standards. Meet the standards or you're out. It's not for everybody. No hard feelings. It's just this might not be for you. Right? No NFL team would allow some fat guy overweight that's can't make the physical fitness standards be on the team because it hurts the team. So that you have to be expected to show up and do the job. I don't think there's anything wrong with this. I don't understand why it's gotten away from us, why it's become this big of a problem in the military with the fat people not only being in the military but also being elevated to these other positions. And I don't even know really what the standards are, but I don't think they're very, very high. So many of the physical, I don't know what, the number of push-ups and pull-ups and stuff you're required to do. It's not David Goggins level, like where they expect you to do 100 pull-ups in a row. I mean, it ain't like it's some kind of crazy PT standard. It's like basic standards that you should be able to pass. And so I think this is just more of a common sense thing than anything else. So I think what Pete Hegseth is doing in the military, I think is great. I think it's awesome. And I think so many of the people in the military, we've seen the recruitment numbers go up. That's what I was talking to the SEALs about. And you love to see that. And I think that's why people feel like they can join, because they're going to be allowed to be the best versions of themselves. They don't have to worry about the wokeness. There was another thing Pete Hegseth was talking about. The Department of Woke is gone. They're not doing diversity days or gender days or whatever all that nonsense is. Everybody gets a day and we celebrate this. Them days are over. And that's what Pete Hegseth was talking about today. And I think that's what we should have. I don't think you see foreign militaries like you don't see like the Chinese military marching and then you got a bunch of fat generals or nothing like that, So we should be the best of the best. That was my take on that. What's your take on it? The other big thing that's happening obviously today is the shutdown. The government is set to shut down at midnight. This has been, like I say, Groundhog Day on the Hill. This happens every September we go through this. It's always the same thing with the government shutdown. They have to extend they're going to put a continuing resolution, what the Republicans are going to do, a clean CR to keep the government open until they can negotiate and get these annual bills figured out, the appropriations bills, and get them all done. But it looks like the Democrats are trying to, just like you heard yesterday, if you watched Vice President J.D. Vance saying, the Democrats are holding it hostage so they can get what they want. And what do they want? They want health care for illegal aliens. And they never say that. Like Chuck Schumer goes on there and he's talking about, the Republicans, the health care is too high. He won't come out and say we want health care for the illegals, but that is exactly what they want. But they just don't say it straight out like that. They have different ways of verbiage to get around exactly what it is that they want. We see right through it. And it's crazy because if you flip back and you look at the past of Chuck Schumer and the Democrats, they didn't want illegal aliens to get any benefits. They were against that. And so what has happened? Like that's the thing that makes no sense. Here's Chuck Schumer, 1996, talking about illegal aliens getting benefits.
This is an anti-fraud amendment. Over where we go, people say, well, why can't you stop illegal immigrants or others from coming here? And the number one answer we give our constituents is when they come here, they can get jobs, get benefits against the law because of fraud. And here, the gentleman from Florida has put together the most effective anti-fraud measure we can find without it changing the actions of the government one bit. And we find all this opposition. Ladies and gentlemen of this chamber, what I worry about is that this bill, which started out with good intentions, whether you agree with it or disagree with it, is going to end up being the same kind of thing that the public gets angry with us on. We say we're doing something, and we do nothing. Because every time someone makes a rational and small proposal to get something done, people say, well, what about this hypothetical, that hypothetical, etc. I urge support of this amendment. If you believe you want to stop fraud in immigration, you have no choice but to support this amendment.
He's calling it fraud, and that's exactly what it is. This is why you have the problem of people coming into the country. They know they're going to get away with, especially under Joe Biden, why they all came here. They were getting free everything. We all saw it. Free phones, free housing, free foods, free this, free that, health care benefits. They're giving out CDL driver's licenses. You can get regular driver's licenses. Many of them are voting in elections. It's like, what has happened here? So this is why, the Democrats continue to argue for health care for illegals, and it is the most insane thing you've ever heard of. We have a healthcare system that's strained to the max already, and you're putting illegals on, giving them health care. Get them out of the country. That's the number one thing that has to happen. But we can twist this shutdown into our benefit here because, as I was talking to Matt Gaetz last week on OAN, we're the ones that get to decide, or not we, but the Republicans, they're the ones that are going to get a chance to decide, Trump's administration, which agencies to turn off at which time. And we can work that into our benefit. Here was former Congressman Matt Gaetz.
I have to believe there are enough people in the Democratic Party who understand that if they are the reason for the shutdown, that they will be blamed for it by the voters because they have not laid out a rationale for their position at all. I would also caution them against believing that a shutdown will result in what they want. The administration has a lot of flexibility during a shutdown regarding which levers to turn off first. So instead of the type of shutdown that would hurt our seniors, our veterans, our troops, our ICE, maybe there's the type of shutdown that supercharges some of the DOGE efforts and really squeezes like the Department of Labor and Department of Education and EPA and some of the places where our good secretaries have been cutting the waste already.
And I think this is exactly what they should do. We know today there was about 100,000 federal employees that resigned. Trump had that resignation, but it was the largest single-day resignation in history. We've cut a lot of fat today from all these federal jobs that are just bloated. And when he talks about the Department of Education, and the Department of Labor. So many of these no-show jobs, it's like a mafia-run organization is what the government has become. Because we talk about the Department of Education, everyone's like, no, we can't shut down the Department of Education and cut the funding and put it back to the states. If people actually looked at where that money is going and how much money is going to the Department of Education and how much of it is not going to teachers, it's going to bureaucrats, they'd say, yeah, well, you know what, it makes sense. But they're not told that. They make it sound like, oh, if we cut the Department of Education, teachers are going to suffer. Yeah, well, if you look at the percentage of the actual money that goes to the teachers, it ain't what you think it is. The money we're spending on education in this country and for the results that we're getting makes zero sense. We spend more on education than any other country per student, and we have people that still can't read and write and pass basic math tests. Our scores are embarrassing for the money that we're spending. And it's always, spend more money, give more money to the district, give more money to the teachers, give more money to the education. And the education's gotten worse since the Department of Education. So, yes, if we have the ability to shut down certain sectors, we're going to do that in a way that's going to make the Democrats say, "Oh, all right, let's just continue this continuing resolution and buy our way to what, November something, and we'll do it all over again." So, and the shutdown stuff, it's very boring. I mean, I know it's like you watch the, Speaker Johnson or Leader Thune talking about this stuff. It's droning. It's boring. It's like it's the same thing every single year with this stuff. Why don't we have, like I was talking to Matt Gaetz, and he's been a big proponent of that, single-issue voter bills. We're never going to see it seems. And it's exactly what the constituents, what the people want. Let's put a single-issue voting bill so we can see where everybody stands on every issue and it's not confused with anything else. But it's like they'll never do that, and I don't understand why. Well, we know why, so that they can hide it all. And they can say, oh, well, I was really for this when I wasn't for that. It's a big shill game. Anyway, will the government shut down? It seems like it might. I mean, it seems like that's what's going to happen here. But usually when this happens, it'll shut down for a little bit, and then they'll find, they'll make an 11th hour or 25th hour deal, and they'll keep it open, And that seems to be what always happens. But we'll see. And again, it's not, they say government shutdown. It's like the most non-essential. It's like going back to COVID. You're non-essential. You get shut down. It's not like the military stops and but there are industry, parts of the military parts of the government that are going to be hurt by it, especially the people that work there. They're going to be put on leave or whatever they call it, no pay. So we'll see what happens with that. Former FBI Director James Comey was indicted last week on 2 counts, lying to Congress, lying under oath. And will he be convicted? I think he needs to be. I mean, I think he's facing 5 to 10 years in prison if he is convicted. But again, he has the ability to turn himself in, which is so aggravating because it's like, and it just shows that the difference, right? When it came to Roger Stone, they came to Roger Stone's house. You heard him on this show. I've talked to him so many times about this. They came to his house in the middle of the night, pointing guns at, surrounded his house, and took him out at gunpoint in his pajamas. Like they took him out. And CNN was tipped off because CNN was there to record the whole thing. For the exact same charge that James Comey has, James Comey has until like October 3rd to turn himself in. There's no SWAT team showing up at his house. And the way that the left has been framing this is that, Trump is now playing a dangerous game. He's going after his political opponents. Like, he wrote the book on this. They're that stupid in the mainstream media that they think you have forgotten what they have done to Trump and to people like Stone and Papadopoulos and Bannon and Navarro. They feel like you've forgotten about all of it because they're all playing up the angle. Well, what's going to happen now when a Democrat gets in there? They're going to want to do the same thing. Well, why do you think Trump is doing this? They set the standard already. They weaponized the justice system. And so now this isn't a revenge. It's accountability. That's what we call it. This is accountability. And you can call it whatever you want. Revenge, accountability, it doesn't matter. It needs to happen. And so much more of it needs to happen because we just learned last week, too, that the FBI now, we learned that they had 275 plainclothes agents in the crowd on January 6th, which was withheld for 5 years. Why withhold that information? Well, because they know that if they put that information out there, it's going to kill their entire narrative around January 6th, which we all know was a Fedsurrection. We've been saying it since that day. We've been saying it. That obviously you had agitators in that crowd that were using the crowd for their purpose, to get violent, to break windows, to get inside. You've never seen anything like that at any MAGA rally. There's been thousands of MAGA rallies. You've never seen any violence like that at any of them. It's just that one isolated day, all of a sudden they were violent. And it just so happens you had 275 agents, plain clothes. Now, they get around the wordage of that because they were saying undercover. So apparently, I don't know if this is how they were getting around it. People like Christopher Wray and others that testified saying that, well, were there undercovers in the crowd? No, I guess undercover and plain clothes, I guess technically are two different things. Is that how they were doing it? Is that how they're saying they got around not telling the truth to the American people? The January 6th committee this whole committee spent millions of dollars of taxpayer money, never once uncovered that there was 275 federal agents in the crowd on plain clothes. They never once looked into that matter. No, because the whole thing was a scam. The whole thing was a scam. And it's what they use. You had Kamala Harris comparing it to 9/11 and Pearl Harbor. Like, that's how dramatic they were. They got that footage from that day. They got everything that they wanted. They shut the American people up about questioning the 2020 election, which was obviously stolen from President Trump. There's not even a question that election was stolen from Trump. And there's not even a question that January 6th was a setup to cover the stolen election. And that was what they did. And they did it. I mean, listen, they did it. It worked. I mean, you got to give it to them. It worked. What they did worked. But it backfired because now Trump is back in office. His popularity grew. More people woke up. And now he's back at the helm. And so when did we find out about the pipe bombers on January 6th? Did we get any answers to that? We didn't get none from the January 6th committee. Didn't even touch that. They didn't even investigate any of that. 275 FBI agents, plain clothes. Was one of them the one that planted the pipe bomber? I mean, we've never figured that out, right? We've never figured out who the pipe bomber is. Mystery. We can figure out everything else. We can't find out who planted those bombs. Was it a federal agent? Smart money would say yes. It was a federal agent that planted those fake bombs that were there. And so do we see more indictments? We better see them. We better see them quick. It's not moving fast enough. But talking about this on the show last week with a few of the guests, and it's just want to dot your I's, cross your T's, make sure you're doing it all right. It's and it's due. What they did to us was so evil, man. So evil what they did. From all of it, from COVID and the lockdowns. To the stolen 2020 election, January 6th, the whole thing has been corrupt, man. Everything. Then they shut you down and wouldn't let you question any of it. The 2020 election, the coronavirus, none of it you were allowed to talk about. And now YouTube has to pay Trump $24.5 million for taking his channel away. And now YouTube claims that they're going to start letting people like me back on YouTube. Now, my channel, I didn't lose my channel, and I lost my TikTok account. I'm hoping to get that back at some point. I mean, I got banned on TikTok. But my YouTube channel was one away, and probably still is, I would imagine, one away from losing it altogether. Now, there were 2 periods of time where my posting ability was paused on YouTube. I think one was like 30 days and one was like 90 days where I couldn't even upload anything. They paused my whole channel. So many of my videos got demonetized, and so many people lost their channels. Like, so many people that depend on that as either a secondary source of income or some as a main source of income were wiped out. Facebook pages taken down. People banned on Twitter. The government, you even heard it from Zuckerberg, that the government was pressing him to censor the Hunter Biden laptop story. The government was involved in manipulating the minds of the American people. And why are we not more outraged about it? Why is that not talked about more? We openly know that the federal government was involved in what was going on Twitter, what was going on Facebook and Instagram, and what was going on YouTube. That was the federal government getting involved in shutting down your free speech. And the Democrats weren't mad about that and still aren't mad about that is because they were on their side. And then when Jimmy Kimmel gets taken off the air, they have a big huff and puff. Oh, my God, we lost free speech. But what they did during those time periods, especially during COVID, especially during the 2020 election, by shutting down your voice, the government was doing that. That's weaponizing the government to shut down your free speech. And, of course, all those things that we were talking about, all were true. And now YouTube is supposed to be letting people back on, turning channel. I know Alex Jones, I think, tested it to the max. I mean, you give Alex Jones a little bit of, you give him an inch, he takes a mile, because he said, all right, let's see how it works. They gave him his channel back. He put on like a Hitler mustache and did the whole show as Hitler or something. I don't know. They banned him again like within 12 hours. They shut him down. But so we'll see if they start getting a little bit more lean. But it shouldn't be that way at all. It's either let everybody talk or let nobody talk. That's the way it's going to have to be. And so Trump got $24.5 million from YouTube. He's already gotten $16 million from CBS, $16 million from ABC. Now, the 60 Minutes thing, he got $16 million. The fact that Kamala Harris and 60 Minutes manipulated her interview to fool the American people is another thing. Like, how does CBS still have a company? How do they still have a business? They were caught red-handed editing an interview with a presidential candidate to manipulate the minds of the voters. I mean, how do they still have a business? They should have been done. The FCC should have said, no, you can't do that. You lost your license. That's it. And it's not like they got caught once doing it. They do this all the time. None of their stories, the negativity about President Trump and during the election, how is that even legal to do that? 90% negative on Trump, 90% positive about Harris. Like, how do you consider that to be a journalism or whatever you want to call it, a news station? It's just an arm of the Democrat Party that should be stopped. They should have it should be 50-50. You give 50% of the time. It's same thing with Jimmy Kimmel. All of his guests are left-leaning, right? And he's free to do what he wants. All the guests are left-leaning. He's not a stand-up comedian. He's an extended arm of the Democrat Party. They are using these networks as propaganda to get their message out. That's what they're doing, and we've seen it for years. And they've always been doing it. It just wasn't noticeable until Trump came along. Stephanopoulos calling Trump a rapist. You know, they have their whole base that still believes that. Trump was never convicted of that. Yet you have people today, oh, the rapist and it's disgraceful. Still people today think that he was convicted of that. And he was not. And so he pays $16 million. And all of the way that they've been shaping the news, it's almost impossible to overcome so much of it. Because it's just a bombardment. And this is why they have people all riled up, believing Trump is Hitler, believing MAGA supporters are fascist. And they're giving you the green light to kill them. And that's exactly what happened to Charlie Kirk. But let's get into this, because the Charlie Kirk, the conspiracy theories, now, just like we say, we talked about the 2020 election, COVID-19, January 6th, and we knew something was wrong here. The way that it is with the Charlie Kirk assassination, you have got all of these theories popping up about what happened. What is the truth? Now, when it comes to Trump's assassination attempt, I believe wholeheartedly that there is a lot more involved in that. I think that there is somebody else that was involved in setting that kid up in that position. Now, I could be wrong. It just seems very shady, the whole thing, the way it looks. With the Charlie Kirk, I have seen every conspiracy theory that is out there. I have not seen one that makes any sense to me. Maybe it's different for you. Now, do I believe there was somebody else involved in this? Yes. I don't believe that Tyler Robinson was a lone wolf. I am believing, just like I do with Matthew Crooks, I think Matthew Crooks is the one that took the shot and tried to kill Trump and ended up killing Corey Competore. I don't believe he was a lone wolf. Same thing with Tyler. I believe Tyler Robinson took the shot and killed Charlie Kirk. I don't believe he was alone. I believe other people either knew about it or helped them along the way somewhere. Now, some of these things that are coming out, let's be honest, this has been a what do you want to call it? Impressions gathering mission for so many people. It's become, what's the word I'm looking for here? But clickbait, I guess, have you? But it has been getting a lot of money for a lot of people because people are always going to be interested in alternative viewpoints, conspiracies of what happened. And so there's a lot of engagement farming. There's the word I'm looking for. Engagement farming about the Charlie Kirk assassination success. And the leading one is the lapel mic. They say that you've all seen this. They say that the lapel mic that was on Charlie's shirt exploded, and that's what killed him. Or it shot a bullet out across him and hit him in the neck, and that's what killed him. I don't see that being possible at all. I give that a 0% chance that happened. Now, people are saying because Israel used those detonated pagers to blow up all them Houthis or Hamas people or whatever it was, and they could do the same thing with the lapel mic. And there's a major difference. If you look at the videos that we have from those people with the pagers, I mean, their legs get blown off. Like, it's like it explodes. It doesn't leave a little single bullet hole in them anywhere. I mean, none that I've seen anyway. And the lapel mic, it's still intact. Like, I don't know. Again, I'm not saying it's not true. I mean, is there a possibility? Anything is possible. I don't find there to be any plausible way that is exactly what happened. The other parts is that his own security team killed him. That they have everybody, the guy was making signs, he was signaling. I mean, I don't buy that theory either. These are guys that have worked with Charlie, that knew Charlie. Charlie knew them. They were like, some of them like family to Charlie Kirk. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't see that being the case. They say that there was a guy in the crowd that touched his shoulder and he shot something from his sleeve, and that's what killed him. I don't believe that theory. I have not been convinced of that. They think that Charlie Kirk was a hologram, that he wasn't even real, that he disappeared down that. There's a hatch that he was that right where the table was that he was speaking from. That he disappeared down the hatch. He was a hologram, and that he's still alive. I'm not buying that one. And a lot of the focus has been on this was Israel that killed him. And so here's the number one reason why I don't believe that it was Israel that killed him or our own government that killed him or another government that killed him is because Tyler Robinson is still alive. Now, if Tyler Robinson had been killed, like Oswald was within 48 hours, I would give it a lot more. I would pay a lot more attention to that theory that it was a foreign government that did it or our own government that did it or something shady. But Tyler Robinson is still alive, and we're going to get a trial, and we're going to hear a lot more about what's going on. Now, are there questions about the way that this happened? 100%. I have them, too. None of them have been answered by these conspiracy theories of a lapel mic. We heard how many times we heard about he was wearing a bulletproof vest and it deflected off his vest. Turns out he wasn't wearing a bulletproof vest at all. We see the one video where they show, look at this little piece. Looks like a piece of the casing in the shot. It turns out it's not a casing that you see. So many of these different things that have come up, have been easy to debunk, and some of them are just, I think, crazy. But there are things that don't make any sense. Him with the gun, disassembling it, reassembling it, changing clothes, changing back into clothes, these text messages that just all fall into, he just a full confession in the text messages. So some of this stuff is very, very fishy. I'm not saying that the story that we're getting is the complete story by any means. I think a lot more needs to come out about this, and I think the trial starts now. I believe October 30th. So I think, and it's going to be on camera. It's going to be for everybody to see. It's going to be public. So I think we'll get a lot more of those answers that will either crush some of these conspiracy theories or ignite them with fire. I mean, we're going to see what happens. Here's what I do know for 100% fact. It is very possible that a deranged leftist murdered Charlie Kirk. I mean, it seems very, very possible that is what happened. And the reason I say that is because immediately after Charlie Kirk was murdered, we saw thousands and thousands of crazy liberals celebrating it. I mean, no matter what conspiracy theory you put out there on version of how he died, one thing you cannot change is the fact that thousands of liberals were celebrating it. So there's no taking that back. That actually happened, and we all saw it. We were all disgusted by it. They were cheering the death and murder of this guy, Charlie Kirk. The left are dangerous, and I think that by asking all the, I mean, listen, everyone should ask questions when any of these things happen. I would never tell anybody not to. But by doing this, we're taking away the fact that the left is as dangerous as they are, especially when it comes into the transgender community. They are dangerous people. They're mentally unstable, and they are ready to kill you for not believing that they are who they say they are. That's what's happened here. And so I didn't see, it wasn't as if Israel could have forced the left to all celebrate. Like that was part of the plan. That happened organically. These people are nuts, and they celebrated it. And they were so depressed when Trump was almost killed on the day he was. I mean, they were. All the tweets were, "Oh, we need a better shooter. Don't miss him next time. You had one job to do." We seen when they thought Trump was when he missed like 2 days of public appearance when he was at the White House. They were already starting rumors that he was dead, and people were starting to hope so, and they're getting their hopes up. The people are sick. And so, is it possible that a crazy left-wing lunatic murdered Charlie Kirk? 100,000%. Charlie Kirk himself was saying how many death threats that he was getting. He knew how crazy the left is. But was it the lone wolf idea? I don't know. I don't believe. I do believe that there had to be somebody else that either knew or helped. But some of these other things, too, they say, the Dairy Queen. They have a picture of him in a Dairy Queen. So you had a guy go and show, look, the Dairy Queen is it's gone. They closed it. There's nothing inside. He goes to the Dairy. Turns out he's at the wrong Dairy Queen. He wasn't at the same one. So it's like so many of these things, they get a lot of engagement, but there's not a lot of substance to them. There's nothing in the video, the horrible video, we've watched it all, that suggests that his lapel mic shot him on the other side of his throat and put a bullet hole in his throat. I don't. That seems to be like the favorite amongst the conspiracy theories. I don't buy that. Zero chance. I don't give it any chance in my book. Is it possible? Yeah, nothing's impossible. But for me personally, I don't give that any credit. I know Roger Stone was just talking about it. You have other people giving credibility to that. I don't see it. I really don't. And again, never to forget, we could be easily manipulated to see things that are not there. I'm no better than anybody when it comes to that. Your mind can be manipulated. When you're told to look at something, you see it. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I could spot it better than anybody else can. But some of this stuff just, to me, is just plain crazy. So what say you? What is your theory on this? Was it Tyler Robinson, crazy left-wing liberal, that ended up shooting and killing Charlie Kirk? Or do you think other forces at play? Do you think the grassy knoll theory, there was a second shooter, there was a decoy? Did his own security team kill him? These are some of the front-running conspiracies going on. Did Israel do it? Did our government do it? For me, as of right now, I don't believe any of those. I believe Tyler Robinson did it, and I believe somebody was working to help Tyler Robinson. If it was a government agency that did it, Tyler Robinson would be dead. Matthew Crooks, dead. There was no trial for Matthew Crooks. We didn't get any more. We still don't have a lot of answers about Matthew Crooks. The other nut that was outside his golf course, he's on trial. Let's get more information about him. Who was involved with that guy? Where do these people get the funding for stuff like this? I don't know. So a lot of questions to be asked, to be answered when it comes to the Tyler Robinson character and the events that took place that day. I'm not saying that what we're getting is the factual story. But I do believe that you have to. I mean, I know we can't trust the FBI. Obviously, we just said they had all these plainclothes guys in January 6th. The FBI not to be trusted. Government agencies not to be trusted. We have Kash Patel at the head of the FBI. If Kash Patel is going to cover up the murder of Charlie Kirk, his friend, if that's going to happen, then forget about it. Forget it. We don't ever have a shot. We'll never get anybody in the FBI that will give us a fair shake ever. Then. If that's the way it is, if Kash Patel has the ability to cover and has the will to cover up the assassination of his friend, then we're never going to get it. Then just give up hope and stop watching it and just turn on something else and watch soap operas, because you're never going to get any authenticity, transparency, nothing. It'll never happen. So I mean, I have faith that Kash Patel is going to do the right thing when it comes to this murder investigation of Charlie Kirk. And if he can't do it, then there'll never be anybody in there that can. So that's how I feel about that. Again, what's your take? Now, Trump yesterday laid out his Gaza plan to end the war. This is going to require Hamas's commitment to fulfill this plan. There's another deadline, a 72-hour deadline that was given yesterday. So I guess we're down to like 48 hours of the deadline. I have no idea what is going to happen with that. I don't have any faith that that's going to work. It just seems like these two wars that Trump came into here are almost seem impossible for him to end. The Ukraine-Russia war and the Israel-Hamas war. It just seems like there's no end in sight to any of them, and it seems like our taxpayer money is getting pissed away on both of them, and I don't want anything to do with either of them. And this thing, again, this was, we had Netanyahu again at the White House yesterday, getting support from Trump, and it's if Hamas doesn't come through this time, we're going to crush them. Well, what have you been doing? Because right after October 7th happened, they went in there and they were going to obliterate Hamas. 2 years later, Hamas is still here trying to negotiate and holding hostages. I mean, this is a failure at every level because Israel is supposed to be like this giant lion that's going to crush Hamas and it's 2 years later. They still haven't eliminated all of Hamas, and they still have hostages. So what happened here? It's very, very similar to what is going on with when 9/11 happened. 9/11 happened to us, and we were like, that's it. We're going to go bomb these people back to the Stone Age. I mean, they're into the Stone Age anyway, except Afghanistan is like the Stone Age with AK-47s. I mean, that's really what it is. It's the Stone Age plus weaponry. So we were going to just go there, and what happened? 20 years later, the Taliban is still in charge. And that seems to be the same path going on here. Hamas is still in charge of Palestine. They're still the leaders. We're 2 years into the war already. Or they're 2 years into the war. Same thing happening, Russia and Ukraine. It was like, oh, okay, this conflict, this war, we're 3 years plus into that war now. And what the common denominator there with the way the U.S. funds Ukraine and the way U.S. funds Israel is that Netanyahu and Zelensky would both be out of office if the wars were to end today. If the wars end today, both of those guys are out. Now, before the whole October 6th tragedy happened, Netanyahu was getting ready to get thrown out of office. They didn't want that guy there. Is he corrupt? Yes. Zelensky, is he corrupt? Yes. They do not want that guy there, but there's no elections now. There's nothing you can do about it. Both of those guys are corrupt. And they're going to do anything they can to remain in power. Anything possible. And if that means continuing the war, that's what they're going to do. There's always another excuse. And so I'm sick and tired of the whole thing, man. And I just don't want to see, I don't want our kids, my kids, your kids, going over there and dying for Israel, dying for Ukraine. I don't want the U.S. to be involved in it. We did this for 20 years. We went over there and fought. And all we did was spend trillions of dollars and lose thousands of lives. And what did we accomplish? What did we get out of this? How did the United States get any better? So when it comes to Israel, Hamas, my position is America first. It's America first. It just seems like it's a con job. That's what the whole thing seems like. And everything is about everyone has to have a side on it. People's whole accounts are dedicated to this. And it's like, if you don't agree, if you say like, oh, well, I don't care about it. They call you an anti-Semite. On the other side, they call you an Islamophobic. I could care less what you call me about any of it. All I want to do is America. Can we go back to worrying about America? If Hamas is taken out of power, can I stop worrying about some homeless guy pushing me in front of the train when I commute? Can that happen? Can we get the homeless people off the street? Is that what happens if we get a peace in the Middle East? Does that mean the homeless people come off the street? If the Ukraine and Russia war ends tomorrow, does that mean I get a lower interest rate on my mortgage? What does this do here? How does this help us improve? That's the question. And it's like, this is what it's like here. I was looking at this too the other day. It's like, can we get back to this? Like our founding fathers, when it comes to foreign conflicts, this was what they had to say. And it's like, I feel like, can we go back to this? Like, what did the founding fathers say about America getting entangled in foreign conflicts? George Washington, in his farewell address in 1796, Washington strongly advised against permanent foreign alliances and involvement in overseas conflicts. He warned that permanent alliances could lead to overgrown military establishments and urged the U.S. to avoid habitual hatred or habitual fondness towards other nations, advocating for neutrality to preserve independence and peace. He said, "It is our true policy to steer clear of permanent alliances with any portion of the foreign world." Wow. I would love to hear that again. Thomas Jefferson, he echoed similar sentiments, favoring non-intervention. In his first inaugural address, he called for peace, commerce, and honest friendship with all nations, entangling alliances with none. He believed foreign wars distracted from domestic priorities and risked compromising American sovereignty. And this is what we're supposed to be about here. Individual freedoms here, making America great. But somewhere along the line, you can go on, John Adams, Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, all these people warning against alliances and getting involved in these foreign conflicts. It takes away from our own personal individual freedoms. It takes away from our own personal individual gains here. It doesn't strengthen us. It only hurts us, and it only has. But they call you an isolationist. Oh, you can't do that because now you're an isolationist. I don't like any of it. Maybe if we were squared away here, maybe then you could start looking down the line. Oh, we were so wealthy and so good and prosperous, and everything is going so good here. We have no homelessness, no poverty. Our schools aren't trying to teach kids that they could take their penis off if they want to. Men aren't competing against women in sports. We have everything squared away here. A family of four can survive with the husband going to work and the wife staying home. They could buy a house and they could flourish. When we're at that point in the country here, when that's available to everybody, yes, let's go ahead and take a look. Let's take a peek overseas. But when you have people struggling over here, we've got a fatherless crisis, a homeless epidemic, a drug epidemic, a veteran epidemic. What are we doing? So I'm sick and tired of the whole thing, and it just seems like it's not peace in the Middle East. Like this isn't something that's it's going to be like, okay, we'll put a Band-Aid on it, and it's only a matter of time before it comes off. It's going to wash off eventually. That's what history has showed us, that's what's going to happen. Russia, Ukraine, this isn't something that just started the other day. This has been going on forever. So anyway, that's my take on that. What say you? All right, as I said there, last week I was covering for Chanel Rion on OAN. I wanted to play a couple of I played you a few there before with Matt Gaetz. I wanted to play a couple of other ones talking about some of the different topics with some of the guests. Again, 15 guests in 3 days. I had a lot to cover. I'm going to share just a few of them with you here so you guys can see. We covered like the ICE shooting in Dallas against our agents. That was another thing. You had a left-wing lunatic trying to kill ICE agents. He ends up shooting immigrants, illegals, who he ends up killing. I mean, it's wild. And we also, not to mention, too, we had two shootings in the last couple of days here. The one at the Mormon church and the one at that, like, boatside restaurant. And both of those were veterans that were, mentally shot, schizophrenic, PTSD, whatever it is. And again, going back to that, we're so worried about patching up things with Israel and Gaza and Ukraine and Russia. We have veterans here that were involved in this 20-year war that are not squared away, that are not doing right mentally, and that need a lot of help. And we're seeing that manifest in our world now. And these people are going to become more and more dangerous as time goes on and as they age and these conditions get worse until we do something to address it. There's going to be a major problem with that. So anyway, some of the things, I had Father Frank Pavone on there talking about Charlie Kirk. I had actor David A.R. White. So just a few of them you'll see. Also Larry Elder, Jack Brewer. So some good stuff. Let me share some of the highlights with you guys here.
What it's going to take, in my opinion, Congressman, you're going to have prominent Democrats get up to the microphone, disavow this stuff, and say, hey, guys, I know where the political tensions are high. We don't agree with everything Trump stands for, but he is not a Nazi. He's not Hitler. These ICE agents are not Gestapo. We're not in Nazi Germany here. These are Americans. We are all Americans here. And until they get that message across and pound it into their base, we're going to continue to see this stuff happening.
You're exactly right. You know, the question is, what kind of country do we want to live in? And that's a question that Democrats need to ask themselves, too. Do we want to live in a country where political violence is normalized, not only by rhetoric from Democrat politicians like Ilhan Omar, who shared a video suggesting that Charlie Kirk himself was responsible for his own assassination because of the things that he was saying? Do we want to live in that country, or do we want to live in a civilized nation where we can disagree and have vehement political disagreements and debates, but be able to solve it peacefully? You know, the foundation of our entire constitutional republic depends on the ability of people to disagree, but to get through those disagreements at the voting booth. Not through violence. That's what we need to get back to. And we need our Democrat colleagues to realize that.
The Democrats seem to have control of all these different institutions. They let criminals out onto the streets to steal your purse. They put teachers into universities to steal your promise. And you got these people on TV out there to steal your perspective. And I think all of it is working together to just sell this idea that they have. And it seems like we got to fight back against all of it.
Yeah, it's a massive problem. I mean, imagine if the Democrats faced a situation where only 3% of the professors at Harvard and the Ivy League schools identified as Democrats or as liberals. Right now, only 3% identify as Republican or conservative. Imagine how they would feel if, according to Media Research Center, 92% of the stories on ABC, NBC, and CBS, collectively, they still have about 30 million people a night, Alec, which is still pretty significant. 92% of the news on Trump, anti-Trump. And as I mentioned, 98% of the jokes during the 2024 campaign were anti-Trump jokes. Imagine how the left would be feeling if that were the case. Overwhelmingly, newspapers editorialized against Donald Trump. I think in 2016, only 2 newspapers endorsed him, as opposed to over 50 who endorsed Hillary Clinton. So this is what we're up against. It's remarkable, Alex, that we even win in the elections. The reason we win elections is because our ideas are better. Yeah. Big government is worse than small government. Low taxes are better than high taxes. School choice is better than assigning your kid to a school that's lousy. Biological men should not be competing against biological women. Getting us out of wars is a good idea. So our ideas are winning. It's amazing, given the avalanche of hostility that we're having from the so-called legacy media and from academia and from Hollywood and from big tech platforms, with the exception now of Twitter. It's amazing how many forces are against us, yet we're still prevailing in elections.
I think the reason for that, Larry, is that the biggest opponent that the Democrats have is reality. That always seems to get in the way of their narrative. I remember Megyn Kelly once suggested that if kids want to dress up as their idol, like Michael Jordan, for Halloween, they should be allowed to dress up, pretend, or blackface to wear a costume to represent their hero. She got fired for that. They made it sound as if she wanted to bring back slavery. Yet here's Kimmel, who actually performed in blackface. He gets a free pass.
Well, I guess I have a few things to react to that. The reason I made the comment, though, at the top of the show is because the LA Times referred to me as the blackface of white supremacy. Look, people like the Wayans brothers did movies called White Chicks. Eddie Murphy did things in whiteface. Nobody had a problem with it. But if you're a white guy and you do what I think is a pretty amusing skit wearing blackface, all of a sudden you've offended people. But either way, Jimmy Kimmel apologized for that. But apparently he's not going to apologize for saying that Charlie Kirk's assassin was part of the MAGA crowd when in fact he wasn't. So I find it very interesting. I don't like the idea of the FCC bigfooting ABC or Disney, assuming that's what happened. I happen to think it was a business decision. If Stephen Colbert is losing $30 or $40 million a year with better ratings than Jimmy Kimmel, Lord knows how much money Jimmy Kimmel is losing. So my suspicion is they had a lot to do with that. And not having to do with anything what the Trump administration did. And if the Trump administration did have a hand in getting Jimmy Kimmel suspended, why is he back all of a sudden after just a few days?
Well, it's great seeing you. I want to get your take, because this kind of reminds me, from a Catholic perspective here, the way that the pulpit we heard when Roe v. Wade was overturned. We heard some priests dive into that. We heard many that didn't even mention it at all. And we've seen kind of that same response to Charlie Kirk from the pulpit. Some priests and pastors digging in and mentioning it, others avoiding it altogether. What's your take on it?
Well, it shows us the divide within the clergy between those who are paying some attention to conservative politics and recognizing that conservative politics in America, represented by people like Charlie Kirk, are our best friends. And so many of the clergy don't get that. And on the other hand, you have those that are not only not paying attention to conservative politics, and they don't feel like they're part of the America First or MAGA movements, but rather even also go out of their way to oppose it and to try to pretend to the flock that, oh, this is really not, the direction that the church needs to go. Yes, it is. The church can only be the church if we have the kind of freedom of religion and the kind of respect and protection for religion and free speech that people like Charlie and the whole movement represent.
And Father Pavone, you've been in the fight for life for decades, longer than almost anybody. And Charlie Kirk was such a staunch fighter for life. And he was very, he didn't back down from his position on life. And we need that type of voice right now, especially for this younger generation that Charlie was tuned into and where the church has kind of tuned out of.
Well, and Charlie and I talked about that many times. We did some work together for the defense of life, especially in the elections. This past election, for example, when many states had those ballot measures where they were trying to impose on state constitutions an unlimited right to abortion, Charlie and I were working against Prop 139 in Arizona, and we were together in Nebraska working where there were victories in Nebraska. They actually defeated the pro-abortion amendment and passed a pro-life amendment there. But these battles were weighed very heavily on his mind and heart, as they should on the minds and hearts of all of us. And I'll tell you, Alec, one of the things that Charlie talked about very passionately, especially in these last couple of years, was the increasing burden he felt about the pastors who are so strongly called by God to take a stand here, who have so many resources of grace and the power of God's word at their disposal. And he was increasingly troubled by the pastors that didn't want to talk anything about abortion, didn't want to talk anything about civic engagement. And he was getting to the point, and he did get to the point, where he said, we've just got to call these pastors out publicly, by name, shame them if we need to into doing what they're supposed to do. And if they don't respond, well, then you know what? Don't enable them. Don't keep contributing to and going to that church. Find the church that will step up to the plate and do and say what it's supposed to in regard to these key issues.
You've seen the NFL push these messages in the end zone. They have to paint end racism and all these little messages that they've forced in there on there. It'd be nice to see them put something like fatherhood matters or dads matter, the future is family, something like that in the end zone, right? Because that, I know you are a strong believer in this. Without the nuclear family unit, most of these kids that we're seeing, this is why we're seeing this rise in youth crime, we see the homelessness out of control, drug use. It all correlates back to the dad being in the home, right, Jack?
That's right. It's the same communities that the National Football League claims to want to help and support through all their initiatives, but they never get to the root cause. It's always surface. Right? It's always about the identity of an individual or the sexual orientation of an individual. It's never about the root cause of issues. Like, you will never hear them talk about a man and a woman needing to be married, a man and a woman needing to be together to build a family, encouraging marriage, standing up against abortion, standing for righteousness and family and faith, and the ability to go out and preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. Unfortunately, the National Football League will never stand for that. They'll always try to play in the middle. They'll always try to play both sides because they don't want to offend anyone, because they're motivated solely by money. And it's really not about the issues that they call the so-called social justice issues that they proclaim, because they are not brave enough. They don't have enough courage to go after the root causes. And I think that's the issue at the end of the day, is that we are talking about getting to the root cause of why we have 18.4 million fatherless kids in this country, getting to the root cause of why 71% of all high school dropouts are fatherless, getting to the root cause of why 12, 13, 14-year-old little boys are carjacking people and robbing them at gunpoint, throughout major cities of America. They don't want to talk about those issues. They want to do things that people give them a pat on the back for, throw money out so that they can promote and market that they gave money to an issue, but they don't want to put the fire out. They don't want to get to the root cause and make sure that we get, the name of Jesus in our classrooms again, that we get the 10 Commandments in our classrooms again. Those are the things that we need. The Bible tells us, don't spare the rod. If you spare the rod, you hate the child. And so the National Football League will never stand for that, even though most of their players and most of their coaches and most of the people agree with it. And so it's a sad situation, but that's why, Alec, we have to continue to speak truth like Charlie Kirk. We have to continue to promote the family in this nation and promote our kids to pursue righteousness and call sin, sin, and not be afraid to do that.
Yeah, you're right on the money, Jack. And even though the NFL actually goes the other way, when they have players promoting their faith, they try to cut away from that a lot of times. They try to just air the piece that they talk about that's secular, not the part where they give all the praise to God or all their praise to Jesus Christ. They try to never play up that angle, and they should, because like you say, we got a spiritual warfare going on. We got a battle of good and evil here. And leading people to Christ the way that Charlie Kirk did, it does matter. I mean, there's so many testimonies to this. My own one. I mean, Jack, at one point in my life, I got a lifetime ban from Giant Stadium. You fast forward, the NFL invited me to the last 6 Super Bowls to interview the players about fatherhood, faith, and family. I mean, it makes a difference when you turn your life over and you bring faith and make it the focal point of your life. There's so many testimonies like that, and it needs to be amplified with the biggest megaphones that we have.
No question. And that's what the players believe. Most of these players hit their knees and pray. They grew up in praying homes. They had praying moms and praying dads. They grew up in church. The National Football League is filled with spiritual players. And so that voice needs to be heard. It can't be overshadowed by all of the delusional, motivated comments and these, taglines, love is love and end racism. All that stuff is good, but the way you do it is rooted in the Bible. It's rooted in the 10 Commandments. And so we can't shy away from that. We have to continue to be bold. And my prayer is that the National Football League actually start representing the players who the fans love and actually doing the things that the players agree with. And once that happens, I think you see a different culture. You see a culture shift, and our kids would actually have the mentors that they need, the heroes that they need, and not heroes that are, making music videos or rap songs about disrespecting women and anti-family pushes throughout the TV when you turn it on. We need to get rid of all of that in America, and we need to get back to lifting up the godly men and women who can serve as examples for our children.
What a person to look up to for young women in this country, especially when right now you have like the Kardashians of the world, or you have even the older generation, the J-Lo. She's like dancing on the AARP poll, so you have all these different women characters that people are looking up to when you have a strong, faith-based, Christ-centered woman like Erica Kirk right now for young women to look up to.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, when I met Erica years ago, not many people know, I'm sure, but Erica was Miss Arizona years and years ago. And somehow we ended up on the same, I started judging for the Miss USA circuit, and she was judging as well. And that's where I met her. And it was a few years back. She just got married to Charlie. And, I got to hang out with her for about 3 days and get to know her. And she was a fan of the God's Not Dead franchise as well. And so it was at that moment, though, even back then, I was just amazed at how sweet she was, how a strong believer. She was committed to her faith, and she loved her husband. And it was just beautiful to see, And so obviously over these years, what Charlie had done with Turning Point, and his whole message, it seems was to connect to the kids on college campuses and to open up conversations, which ironically is kind of what we had done with God's Not Dead, just almost a little bit over 10 years ago was the first God's Not Dead. And it came out, and, that whole movie was based on a college campus. And I think that's how it sparked the cultural phenomenon that it became, because it was all about opening up conversations with people who who may disagree with you, but at least we talk about it. And that was Charlie's ministry, was going to college campuses and communicating with people. It's so easy to hate on the internet and to send, horrible messages and judge, but until you actually are in the same room with somebody and you're talking to them. And I think that's what Charlie was talking about. And we've tried to do that through our films for a long time as well.
Yeah, a lot of fun filling in for Chanel Rion on One America News, and I know a lot of you tuned in. I just want to say thank you so much for your support. I got so many of your emails, your private messages, your DMs throughout the week last week, so it was cool to see so many of you guys who watched the AlecLace Show tune in on OAN to check that out. Obviously, now they're on YouTube TV, so a lot more people have access to it. Hopefully, they're back on the regular, I know they got thrown off of DirecTV again during the 2020 January 6th nonsense. And these things, they don't want the conservative voices on, like DirecTV. They don't want conservative voices on their networks. And you can't have it that way. It's not good for the country. So, that's what it is. Anyway, I appreciate you guys tuning in. I'll be back here on Thursday. Trying to line up some guests. Been hard. Like I said, I lined up a bunch of guests to be on there with OAN. So, trying to spin around right now. I know the shutdown looming. A lot of the guys in Congress ain't available. I'm going to try to do my best to try to get a guest here for Thursday. So make sure you bring it back in Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be back here with you guys. Thank you for tuning in. God bless our parents and our listeners out there. God bless our police, our first responders. God bless our military, our veterans. God bless America. And I'll catch you guys on Thursday.
Hi, I'm Emily, and I'm at the White House with my dad, and you're watching The AlecLace Show.
You're listening to The AlecLace Show. The future is family.